that thing got through and pinned my finger up against the glass both times. Super sketchy. Yeah, so I'm just trying to learn solar. That's the biggest part of it. When I want to learn stuff, I gotta buy the stuff and play with it. So that's what I'm doing. I just bought some solar stuff, and now I'm playing with it. And the solar panel I got, like this solar panel is like a double solar panel size. And I put that thing on the roof of my trailer by myself yesterday, and you're probably thinking, boy, that would have been a good video. And you know, it might have been, but I might have dropped the freaking thing if I was trying to make a video. Not that I would have been trying to hold the camera, obviously I would have set the camera up, but I just think that in the big universal thing is that the universe would have thought it would have made a great video if I would have freaking dropped it. So I worry about things like that. Anyway, it was a dirty, very high stress operation. The roof is dirty. If I was a perfect person, I would have cleaned the roof perfectly and then maybe even done some sort of treatment or conditioning or something to it before I put this solar panel on it, because the solar panel takes up a ginormous piece of my roof now that's covered. And it would have been real clever to clean the roof first, but you know, the roof was dirty as well as you'd imagine, and I was rolling around in it, and the operation was very high stress. In particular, obviously getting it from the ground up to the roof. So how I did that was, I have a bike rack on the back. So I was able to put the solar panel right on the back of the trailer, with the top of the solar panel was basically at the top of the trailer. So all I had to do was just crawl up on top of the trailer, hang over the side, and pull this 4x6 sheet of glass up onto the roof. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was super. Oh, yeah. Another PTSD event. So then I had to install all these brackets all the way around it. And the brackets, the trick was I couldn't just put them all on there and just keep flipping this thing over, because I couldn't set the solar panel on the brackets on the roof. They would have torn holes in the roof. So that was a whole nother level of dancing around with this big ass thing. Then it only had 4 holes for 4 brackets, but the guy included an extra 2 brackets. So there was 2 each on the long sides and none on the short sides. So I put brackets on the short sides. Now that was super scary, because I don't know if you've ever drilled metal, but soon as you get through that, your drill bit just bites and just goes. Well, again, it's glass behind that lip. It's like a little L bracket or something, probably more than an L. It's like a C or something, but the L part's like this, and I had to drill through here, and the glass is here. So drilling through there. And I literally did that as slow as the drill would go, and I had my hand up in behind, so if the drill actually went too far, it was going to hit my hand before it was going to hit the glass. You know, I should have probably checked the price of this, because it was a kit. I should have probably checked just the price of the solar panel by itself, because like risking body parts for something, yeah, I don't know. But just like I thought it would, it bit right through, and I just, as soon as I could get my finger off the trigger on the slowest it would go, that thing got through and pinned my finger up against the glass both times. Super sketchy. So then those end brackets, those were too far off the roof. And the guy's like, well, just bend them if they're not the right, just bend them. Well, they weren't gonna bend that far. So I went back to the hardware store and I got some longer screws and some big spacers and some more washers. That's how I spanned the ends. Now the way that thing is actually secured to the roof is per some instructions I found online video, and the roofing material is only maybe like 1/4 inch or something, 1/4 inch plywood, and the solar panel's so big that you just put it where you need it. You don't get to find I don't know what they call them, joists or something in a trailer, or rafters. I don't know. Big thick wood to drill into? No. You just get a drill through the roof, through this little thin board, and then some insulation comes out. But when the insulation comes out, it's actually a good thing, because that insulation then makes a nice cavity for the epoxy to sit in. So that was my first mistake, is I bought just regular epoxy, and what I needed is I needed that syringe that mixes them and then just delivers it right into a syringe-like form. Because then I was just able to plug it in and just fill the holes. Well, that worked really, really good on all but one hole. And that one hole, I literally had to keep, it was the first hole too, which is weird, and no insulation came out. So on this hole, I kept, now it was epoxy and then one of those little like drywall or concrete plastic sleeves that you drill a hole and then you put those little plastic sleeves down into. So you fill it up with epoxy and you put that sleeve down in it. So what I ended up doing is I just put epoxy in the screw hole, in the plastic parts as well. And about a nice like 1/4 50-cent piece size around the outside. So there should be a nice plug of epoxy on both sides of that 1/4 inch roofing. So then the bottom side of the bracket has two-sided tape, some really industrial Gorilla Glue two-sided tape, which is super pain in the butt. You put this piece of tape up on the bottom, now you got to pick the other side off something that's up off the roof like that. But, you know, that just every little bit. And then around that two-sided tape around the edge, use this like putty stuff. It's got a weird bulge putty or something, I don't know, some kind of putty. So you put that around the outside, so then that makes just a total seal between whatever you put on top of the roof and the roof. And then you even kind of mash it around the edges, and it kind of moves around and then becomes like a little putty form, right? And then on top of that, you use this, it's a roof sealant for RVs. It's called auto leveling roof sealant. And basically it's just this stuff that comes in a caulking tube, and you just get it all over everything. So you completely coat the whole top of the bracket, the top of the screw, the edges of the bracket. You know, like the bracket's like this big, and then the area that auto leveling roof repair stuff is like, the glob of it is like this. So you just slather that stuff all over the place, and then it just kind of goes down and makes a real thorough watertight seal to the whole thing. So each one of those screws is rated at 15 pounds. So there's 6 of them. I guess that's 15 pounds, assuming you have your entire screw buried into wood. That's how much the screw will hold. So, you know, with my epoxy plug and this and that, you know, poof, if there was ever a giant updraft on that panel, I'm not so sure it wouldn't just rip those freaking plugs and the roof right up. Maybe. But I can't. It's heavy. I mean, that panel was like 60 or 80 pounds or something. And so that force down. So basically those brackets are just keeping it from, you know, moving away. And there's a vent right in front of it that's probably messing up the airflow enough to where there's not going to be like some pressure on it, wind blowing on it constantly. So, I don't know, it's just one of those things that, that I guess if it ever blows off, I'll find out that that method that I used isn't that good. I mean, it seems really solid. The only screw that didn't go down super solid was the very first one. And then some of the other little plastic ones were behaving really weird. Like I push them in and they push out, and I push them in and they push out. So I had to like smack them down a little bit in there. And then I just epoxied around the whole tops of them and everything, and even got a little epoxy down in the screw hole, so it was actually screwing into epoxy. So I'm pretty confident that that it's not just going to blow off. It seems like, I mean, if I had only put the 2 brackets, I think I would have been constantly paranoid. But with those extra 2 brackets, I feel like it's probably not going to go anywhere. I didn't screw down, like, so the very first one's not completed though. Like, I wanted the epoxy to get like a super long good dry, because I had just been putting more epoxy down in this one, like 3 or 4 times. So I wanted to just give the epoxy, and I actually had to use some of that. I ran out of the syringe epoxy. I actually had to use some of that other epoxy and just kind of let it, and I was like jamming it in there with one of the syringe epoxy tips, and I actually got quite a bit of it to go down in the hole. So I'm hoping it's just not all just dripping down somewhere and there's just a giant puddle of epoxy nowhere near where I need it. I mean, that would be the worst case scenario, but it seems like it was getting a little better each time. So that last time I just packed so much epoxy down in there that hopefully it'll grab, and that'll be the final part. Then I have to drill the roof and connect the wires. So that's a whole other, and that's going to be sketchy, obviously, drilling a hole through the roof big enough to pass these wires through, which the wire's not that big. I mean, it's like this big, so it's not a huge hole, but it's going all the way down into the trailer, into the cabinetry, so it's a little bit bigger deal than these other holes I've already put in. I mean, that's a couple hours worth of work probably. And then, it's literally like the hardest parts have been done, I think. Like it just the only obviously wiring it and getting into the trailer's wiring system is going to be a bitch, because it's like they built a cabinet around the wiring system that looks like it was never intended to be accessed. So, and I have to access it to do some pretty. I have to disconnect the breaker, wire in a whole other wire for power, maybe like 2 more wires, maybe. It's definitely a advanced project. Throwing myself in the deep end on this one. Like I've messed around with electricity, but not automotive electricity, household electricity, a little bit of DC stuff, but not a whole lot. And the thing with the trailer, it's both.